Okay. Thanks, Greg. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to our citizens, county staff, my colleagues, everybody across the board. Welcome to September. We're going to start this morning with how we always do, and that is we're going to rise for the pledge, and then we're going to observe a moment of silence. And again, as we always do, let's keep everyone in your thoughts this morning during the moment of silence that are on the front lines of this pandemic. Also remember those in uniform across this great country and across the world, protecting the lives of all of us so we can do this morning. If we'd all please rise for the pledge, and then we'll observe our moment of silence. How we always do, and that is we're going to rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody. We've got a pretty packed agenda this morning, including 2 proclamations and several guests that we got to get to. So we're going to go into Priority Carol, and I'll go with my colleagues first. And I would ask that we try to be as brief through your comments about Priority Carol as you can be, so that we have time to get to all the things that we need here to do, because again, we've got a pretty packed agenda. So with that being said, we'll jump right into Priority Carol, and I'll begin with Commissioner Ed Rothstein. Commissioner, good morning.
Apologize. Good morning. Just a couple of quick things. One is continuing to focus a lot of attention on the COAD, or Carroll County Community Organization Against Disasters. Something very impressive that I saw as I was participating on Sunday. There are thousands of pounds of dry goods that have been shipped from Salt Lake City and are being stored in Eldersburg for pop-up pantries. And while I was there, a gentleman from Silver Run Community Pop-Up Pantry was loading up his truck. So what we're seeing is pop-up pantries from Eldersburg, Sykesville, all the way up to Silver Run, really participating in this. And I just really appreciate the positiveness and contributions from all. It really is a community effort. The second is I participated, as you know, I'm an ex officio on the Planning and Zoning Commission. It was a 3+ hour meeting. I think the next 2 will be about the same, because what we're doing is we're talking about the rezoning efforts within the county. There are 30 areas that landowners have requested for rezoning, and there have been hundreds of postcards that have been sent out to the community surrounding those areas. And now it's time for, I won't say a give and take, but understanding communities' concerns, whether they're plus or minus, when it comes to rezoning efforts. Once that is all done, it'll then come to the 5 of us for decision making on those pieces of property to be rezoned or not. I participate in the meetings a little because I'm going to be voting with you when they come in front of us. So I really am a bystander on most of the Planning and Zoning Commissions while they're going through that. The reason I'm highlighting it is I really am throwing a shout out to our team and to the Planning and Zoning Commission and their dedication and, taking each issue one at a time. And a real shout out to the community that's reaching out and participating in this effort. And with that said, I'll pass it on. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Ed. Commissioner Weaver from District 2. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. I just want to echo, I think Commissioner Rothstein was right. The number of food pantries, the churches, the people who are still providing food out there is unbelievable. And in Carroll County, this is unique, I think, for the amount and the support that's given. I do want to thank people from various aspects, though, from the rec councils, from also from the rezoning issues. I've had a lot of calls, a lot of emails. I've read them all, and I do understand where they're coming from and all of these. And we will be getting, as Commissioner Osteen said, through these individually in the future. And I do have some ideas then to come in, but right now is not the time. And so I just want to thank people for continuing to stay the course right now. I know the number of masks that I see out there is unbelievable. So thank everyone. If we keep on target, keep your distance, keep your mask, keep washing your hands, we're going to be getting through this. Thank you.
Thanks, Dick. Commissioner Frazier, District 3. Dennis, good morning.
Good morning. I just want to kind of echo more or less what Commissioner Weaver was saying about the mask and keeping distance and washing hands. However, I've noticed a little change lately, past week or so. Everyone has a mask when I go into the stores, and that's great. But I have noticed that most of the masks, or not most, I'd say 20% or so of the masks are now pulled down below the nose as people are going through the store. Not the way to wear the mask. It's got to be up over the nose and down below the chin. That's the way it should be. Now is not the time to take your foot off the gas. Now's the time to keep doing what we've been doing if we want to keep moving in a positive direction. As you know, if you read the paper this morning, Carroll County is now like allowing tackle football, wrestling, basketball, and competition and so forth. Those things won't continue to move forward unless we keep doing the right things. I don't want to see us moving backwards. But as I go into the stores, it really bothers me when I see not only people in the stores that are shoppers with masks below the nose, but people that work in the stores that have the mask below the nose. I realize it's not always convenient and sometimes it gets hot under there. I know, we all wear the mask. It has to be done. Now is not the time to let your foot off the gas. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Well said. And finally, District 4, Commissioner Eric Boucher. Eric, good morning. Not getting any audio, Eric, out of your computer. You might want to check that. Go up to the little round circle maybe and hit the up at the settings. Just make sure it's on.
Still not hearing you. Commissioner Wentz, you want me to run over there and see if I can help him out real quick?
Yeah, why don't you do that? Yeah, go over and give some technical support to Eric, and I'll come back to him. Eric, I'll come back to you for Priority Carroll, I promise. And right now, let's go with a couple of the other things we have Priority Carroll, so we can keep moving here this morning. The one thing that we have this morning that we do most every September is declare the month of September as Suicide Prevention Month. And typically we'd have some guests on here to talk about that. Don't believe that we're going to do that this morning. We're just going to merely do a couple facts here and move on with the activity that will occur as a result of us providing a Suicide Month. So you on there, Chris?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. Okay. All right, then I'll stop with that. And Eric, scoot right. Oh man, I hate to say scoot. Sorry. I'll go right back to you, Eric.
I appreciate that. A little bit of technical difficulty. I think they uploaded the system or something over the weekend. First, I want to give recognition to Jack Lyburn and staff for getting out the rebound finances. A business in my district, Extreme Fabrication, was in the paper this week talking about how they were able to take the funds we allocated to buy a weld machine and hire an employee. So that's economic activity. And being a welder and the guy I am, it's like getting a new toy at Christmas with a new weld machine. So good for you guys out there. It's always a great sign to see our business is healthy. Also, I'd like to mention Max Major, who's a stage name. He is a fellow Woodbinian who graduated from South Carroll. He was on America's Got Talent this week. I don't know if Mr. Swam's out there, if he has a photo or something he can post to this gentleman. He is a mentalist, and he can make you, there he is, he can make you think he's reading your mind. He did a few acts. He's moving on to the next semifinals, whatever technically they're called, with America's Got Talent, and he's representing Carroll County nationally, and I'm looking forward to him possibly winning $1 million as he moves forward. Great young man, fascinating what he does, and he makes you think real deep about your mind and him getting into it. There's a certain trick to it. I think the quote he has, "My act isn't about tricking or fooling people. It's about showing everyone how incredible the human mind is." So it's very impressive, and we're all rooting for him. I hope he's successful. So I'll wrap up with that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive. I don't typically pay attention to that show much, but maybe I should. So that's good. Okay, thanks, Eric. Finally, for me, quickly with the Priority Carroll, just want to remind everyone that we continue to work with MACO. That now that we've moved into the beginning stages of the beginning phases of stage 3, I'm thinking that we're going to see some ramped up activity coming out of Annapolis. So we continue to be engaged with everyone down there. Unfortunately, as a result of COVID, we have officially canceled the winter conference that we typically all go to in Cambridge. So that won't be happening this year. But we are going to, MACO is going to do some online virtual activity as a result of not having that winter conference. And there's some other activities surrounding things that are going on in Annapolis. So we'll hear more about that as we go along. So other than that, I'd like to echo my two colleagues, Dennis and Dick, about the mask wearing. Now that we've moved into the beginning phases of stage 3, now is not the time to become complacent. And I'm concerned about that, and so is everybody else. And when you heard what the governor said in his press conference, you heard him say that very thing. So I'll continue to ask the question. Y'all want to go back and do what we've done over the last 3 months and lock down again? I'm pretty sure I know what the answer to that is. So as Dennis very adamantly put it, you got to keep doing what you're doing. You can't stop, because if you do, we're going to be back there again. And I don't think we all want to get screamed and yelled at like we did the last 3 months, because quite frankly, I've had it with all that. And I understand the frustration, understand all of that. Don't quite understand the rudeness that we've gotten over the past several weeks, but I guess that goes with the territory. But if we remain diligent and continue on the path here, as Dick says, we'll get through this. And I think we are. The numbers are speaking for themselves. All right, back to September is Suicide Prevention Month. I'm not going to read the entire proclamation. I am going to tell you what is being done across the county and across the state. Certainly everybody knows that suicide is a public health issue, which everyone has a responsibility to prevent. And it's acknowledged every September with National Suicide Prevention Month. And we always do this in Carroll County with the proclamation. And all of the resources in Carroll that we have are still available. And we continue to work hard to ensure that that this is still looked upon as something that is critical to get ahead of. So you see the proclamation in front of you. Quickly, it says that organizations such as the Maryland Suicide Prevention and Early Intervention Network and the Governor's Commission on Suicide Prevention resolve to integrate and coordinate suicide prevention activities, develop, implement, and monitor effective programs that promote wellness and prevent suicide and related behaviors, promote suicide prevention as a core component of healthcare services, and increase the timeliness and usefulness of surveillance systems relevant to suicide prevention and improve the ability to collect, analyze, and use this information for action. So for more information, I would encourage folks that are experiencing that, in whether it be your family, friends, whatever, to get out there and certainly contact the appropriate authorities so that you indeed can be assisted to get the help that you need. With that being said, we'll take that down. I'll pass it to my colleague, Eric Boucher, who I know has some strong, very strong feelings about this for the last word on the Suicide Prevention Month. Eric?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, it hit my family with a teenage suicide of a stepson. Always try to pay as much attention to your juveniles, especially teenagers. We all know we went through it. It's very trying, turbulent time, so it impacts our youth a lot. A lot of times they don't realize what they're going through, and they internalize it. So be willing to ask the questions and bring it out. And also, if you need any professional help in addressing that situation, there's lots of resources. You can reach out, contact the health department. I'm more than happy to help you. Also, remember, we have on the 12th, the suicide prevention walk or drive-through at Primgold Park, right up the street from my house. You can go online and donate to help with the resources and the advocacy for this issue. So please be vigilant about this. And remember that a lot of times people suffer internally. I know I personally suffer from depression, and a lot of people didn't know. So if you're close to someone, please talk to them and get them help that they need. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Commissioner Wentz, I just want to tag on that a little bit. The veterans really did a great job with the 22-day push-up program that made people aware of the 22 veterans per day potential suicide problem, so, and awareness. And they, believe me, I'm still feeling the awareness.
Yeah, thank you, Dick. That's a good point. Ed, I know you were instrumental in leading the charge there. So we want to thank you as well. Any words from you on this one, Ed?
A lot of it's been said. It is, our men and women in uniform, whether it be blue, red, or green, in other words, police, fire, and military, carry a burden of selflessness and service that builds on the challenges. And when a lot of times that goes away through retirements or them taking that uniform off, that service and self-worth is sometimes lost and well, not lost, is challenged within them. So it is a public issue, it's a community issue, it's a neighbor issue. And like Eric, you said, is let's continue to bring this to the forefront and talk about it and highlight it and, take care of our neighbors in our community. So really appreciate all the work that's being done. So thanks.
Okay, well said. Dennis, did you have anything on this one? I didn't want to leave you out. I didn't want to leave you out of this. You good? Okay. All right. Ed, I truly do appreciate you also bringing up our first responder community. For those that are paying attention across this country, the men and women in blue are really taking a hit when it comes to this area. And even before all of the challenges that we're seeing with law enforcement, the first responder community had very high numbers when it comes to this. So it's important to remember them as well. So I thank you for bringing that up, Ed, because not only is it in our military and certainly in our teenagers and all of those, but it's also very prevalent in our first responder community. So again, we've got a lot of resources that are available to you. I would suggest for those that are experiencing that to start with our health department. Our health department will be able to plug you in to the resources that you need. And as is typically the case, Carroll County has a ton of resources for those that need assistance. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you see that is becoming a problem or is a challenge for you. So thank you, gentlemen. Well said on that one. All right. The next thing I'd like to move to, and that is I had the distinct honor and privilege of representing the county commissioners yesterday in presenting the proclamation to a young man who retired yesterday. And he's certainly not retired. He's not going to go away. And even though he's retired, we made him come on here this morning. So there you go. So there's that. I'd like to turn this over to Sheriff DeWeese, who is on here with us this morning. And Sheriff, good morning. And not only do I want you to cover Larry and the proclamation that we gave to him yesterday, well, let's do that one first, and then we'll talk about the changes that you are experiencing in the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff DeWeese, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. So for retired Colonel Suter's first day retired, he's actually at a commissioner's meeting. So he's online somewhere. So this is a heck of a first day of his retirement. At 9 o'clock, he's jumping on to hang out with you all. So he's a dedicated, I don't know, what do we call him? Eric Ellersbergian?
Ebergian.
But as you guys know, Larry came with me in 2014 when I was elected sheriff. 38 years for county police. He's been in Eldersburg for I think 40 years. Raised 4 daughters down there. Carroll County Public Schools. You know, he's been in the community. He's been just an absolute rock for me over the last 6 years in the organization. Total of 44 years of service. And the irony of it being, you know, Suicide Prevention Month is that Larry brought some ideas, and I see that Ed Singer somewhere on the screen. He brought some ideas from Baltimore County when it came to mental health and trying to attack that issue in Carroll County. And he saw a need for programs and different initiatives to try and help the mental health community with responding to some of the issues that we've responded to over the years. So he's worked closely with the health department and other nonprofits in the county to get some initiatives going, and they've been extremely successful. He decided after 44 years to hang it up. You know, the funny thing is yesterday you gave him a proclamation. His comment was that we went from the world's shortest colonel to the world's tallest colonel because I promoted Richard Hart to the rank of colonel. And so I think Colonel Rothstein will understand this. When somebody of Larry's rank leaves, it provides for an awful lot of upward mobility within the organization. You know, we didn't want to see Larry leave, but there's some guys that are benefiting that were in the rank and file, and it's healthy for the organization. So I appreciate you coming over yesterday, Steve, and presenting the proclamation. You spent many years in Baltimore County also, and know Larry in that arena. So Larry's on. Larry, you're welcome to chime in.
Yeah, I just want to thank you very much, Ms. Wyndham, and the sheriff, even the citizens of Carroll County. It was a great opportunity. I really enjoyed my years here. It was just time to move on and let somebody very capable take. You have that in Colonel Richard Hart, but I do appreciate the proclamation and Mr. Wance being there yesterday. Thank you very much. This is a great county to work for. And just like Mr. Wance was just saying, a lot of resources. I am happy about the way the mobile crisis team is working. It's hard to really gauge just how effective that is because it's, you know, what is it preventing? It's hard to show what it's preventing, but it's a very, very effective tool in this county. And I hope that continues and becomes even a more robust program than what it is now. But I'm very grateful for the opportunity to work for what I believe is the best county and the best jurisdiction in Maryland. And gentlemen, you make it, you're part of that. And Ms. Wyndham, and of course, my boss and my friend, Sheriff Jim DeWeese. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. I'm going to go down and let my colleagues say a few words, and I'll hand it back to Jim to talk about the changes. We do have a new colonel on here today with us as well, so we'll get to him. But first, I'd like my colleagues each to address retired Colonel Larry Suter, and I'll go in the opposite direction. Larry, don't go anywhere. You're still on here. So Eric, we'll start with you. Eric?
Thank you, Commissioner. Colonel, thanks for your service all these years to the community. It's a dedication that not everyone has. I'd like for you to give some advice to the younger people out there right now looking to go into the career. Do you have any words of wisdom to inspire the next generation to backfill in people such as yourself who are moving on?
Well, I believe, and I say it time and again, it's a noble profession, and you have to have integrity. That's one of the most important things, compassion, and act like a professional. And you have to make sure that those standing beside you and doing the job are doing the same things. And that's part of being a professional. So it's not an easy job. It's not what you see on TV. There's a whole lot more to it than that. And going back to the mobile crisis thing, we do a lot of training in Carroll and most other jurisdictions in Maryland for police officers, because we're the first folks very often that deal with somebody who's in crisis. So there's a whole lot more to it than what you would see on a movie or on TV. And it takes a pretty smart person with good values to do that. So I encourage people. It's been a great opportunity for me, but it didn't come easy. There's some work involved. So just like anything of value, you got to work at it. So thank you.
Well, Colonel, thanks for the kind words. I don't know how you deal with Jim DeWeese, though.
He's a great man. I wouldn't have been here if he wasn't. People ask me, how could you work for a state trooper? I said, come on now. I said, he's the man of integrity, and he's a very good man. And I said, I really have enjoyed, and I consider him a personal friend. So.
Very good. Thanks, Eric. Commissioner Frazier.
Well, Larry, congratulations and thank you for 44 years of service in law enforcement. I really do mean thank you. I've said this many times, without safe communities, you have nothing. If the county's not a safe place, nothing else works. So
Sure.
Thank you for everything that you've done for us. And I also have to say, spending your first day in retirement with us in the morning, which did you look forward to most, retirement or spending your first day with us? Because I probably was almost, same level there.
I think it's a loaded question, I think.
You can answer honestly, that's you're retiring now.
Right. No, this is fine. I don't be a stranger. Like I said, I love this county. I love this country. I've said that time and again, and I know the troubles we're dealing with, and it's a big challenge, but we've dealt with challenges in the past, and usually it's made better. So let's hope that once we get through all this, the pandemic and the defunding police and all that, once we get through all that, we'll be better for the discourse, the peaceful discourse.
I just like to finish by saying it takes a special person to, number one, work in any job for 44 years, but in law enforcement, the way that is, it takes someone extremely noble, I would guess the word I would use, because of all the stuff that goes on about the police department and all the protests and everything else. It's up and down, depends on what happens. And it just takes a special person to stay there. And thank you again for your service and to Carroll County. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Weaver.
Well, Larry, I think we first ran into each other about 7 years ago when the sheriff and I first were running for office. And you don't know, I know you've always been there. You're always making things happen. I don't know how many times I've heard Colonel Souther handle it over the years, and I know that would be true. And trouble is, you really have a great person to follow in your footsteps. I mean, Hart coming in, and I heard the same thing about him. I know he's attention to detail. Every time I've ever talked to him, things are handled. And between the two of you, I know you are two of the people that make the sheriff look good. He has a good staff, but you two really are there and have his back at all times. So I appreciate what you've done, and stay in touch.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I can't speak more highly of now Colonel Hart. And I'm really grateful that things worked out the way they did. It's a very good transition. And I think it's one of the strongest command staffs you'll see in law enforcement. They're very competent, very capable. So you got some good people serving the needs of the citizens of Carroll County. Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
Commissioner Rothstein.
Yes, sir. That was very well said. Because I agree. The leadership, is very evident in Carroll County. I would say we definitely support our men and women in blue every day, and it's also because of folks like you and the leadership. I've used the tagline "Listen, Learn, Lead," and you along with the others really show the ability to listen and learn from what the community's needs are, and then take that and lead. I really appreciate the work you've done. It makes it easy to live, work, and play in Carroll County because, like was said before, we feel safe and secure with leadership like you and those that you serve with in Carroll County and Sheriff's Department. So thank you, and welcome Richard, Colonel Hart, to the new rank and the new position as well. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rothstein.
County Administrator Roberta Wyndham.
Well, I think everyone's already said everything I wanted to say, so I'll just wish you the very, very best. Colonel Souther, you were a pleasure to work with, and you really did make everything go very smoothly over there in the Sheriff's Department. Thank you. And Colonel Hart, look forward to continuing to work with you. You've always been a rock for us here in Carroll County government, and we really appreciate both of your efforts. And best of luck.
Thank you very much.
And Larry, I think I said all that I wanted, that I needed to yesterday, but you know how I feel about you. I joked with the group that was there yesterday. You and I had similar paths as we came through the ranks in different public safety in Baltimore County. And I don't know who scored higher on the test. I'm not going to get into that right now. Deweese would love me to get into that, but I'm not going to do that. But I truly, there's no doubt that your fingerprint and many of the things that you accomplished in Baltimore County remain there, and they will remain here as well. You are truly a dedicated professional, and your leadership far extends in both of the counties and actually around the state, because I love the story that Sheriff Deweese shared yesterday about an incident up in Western Maryland when you guys had that incident. So listen, I can't thank you enough. For those of us that serve in public safety, it ain't easy, and it takes a special individual to do it, and you truly are the shining example of that special individual. So Larry, to you, we say Godspeed. We wish you and your family a ton of happiness as you ride into that sunset, not off into it, but just ride into it, because I know you'll still be around Carroll. So from one public safety to an individual to another, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you have done in both Carroll and Baltimore counties over the 44 years that you have dedicated your life to the citizens. Thank you very, very much, Larry.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Wins, for those very kind words, and Ms. Wyndham, for all of you for your very kind words and for taking so much time out of your meeting. Thank you very much. And again, once more, just thanks to the citizens of Carroll County. It's a great county to work for. Thank you very much.
Round of applause for Colonel Souther. Thank you very much. Okay. With that being said, Sheriff Deweese, I'll turn it back over to you, sir, to give a little bit of a statement on who's moving where.
Yeah, this provided an awful lot of movement, and at the same time, I had another captain after 39 years decide to retire, Cody Lusk. He's been around an awful long time. I'll try and get him one at some point in the near future with you guys, but he's been dedicated to the county as well and worked closely with Colonel Souther. But that provides even more movement. So I've made unfortunately for HR and Kim Brock's group, I've been sending an awful lot of paperwork back and forth on promotions and movement. and BTI where the county is going crazy. But so that provided obviously Colonel Hart, who most of you know, you've been around for a long time. He's been 39 years in law enforcement. Prince George's County, retired, and then up here and has worked his way through the ranks here. And he was a very valued member under Sheriff Dragoni. I've been able to watch him for the last 6 years, made him a major when I got here, and it was a natural progression for him to take over as the chief deputy. So Richard's on the line. He'll do a wonderful job. You guys know that. He's always out and about and available. And you're right, Commissioner Weaver. Now the term will be Colonel Hart will take care of that. Rich?
Well, thank you very much. I have some big shoes to fill, and I mean figuratively, not literally. But he was, Colonel, you were a great mentor for me, and I appreciate it. And you know, the job's kind of simple here. We just want to keep our folks safe, keep our community safe, and we have the tools to do that, and we have the support from the commissioners and the citizens. So that part we got. Law enforcement's tough, but we'll get through it. And I'm looking forward to the venture. It's going to be a good one. And again, we're going to make a lot of moves, and it's going to just make everything stronger. So thank you very much.
So with that, couple of changes that we've made. You guys know Chuck Rapp will move into a uniform. He'll go out of CID into patrol. He's not foreign to a uniform, and in our job, you've always got to be prepared to put a uniform on and go back to where you started. And so Chuck will be the patrol commander. I've promoted David Sten, who most of you are familiar with. He was previously the assistant patrol commander. He's a major now, and he will oversee investigations for us. I've made 2 captains, Mark DeBoard and Bruce Van Leuven. Both of them have made their way through the ranks. Bruce will go up to CID, and Mark will come down and be the assistant patrol commander with Major Rapp. I've also made 2 lieutenants. Bill Murray, who was over in Secaucus, will come out and go into CID. Dustin Boone, who was up in CID, will be a lieutenant and come down to patrol. I've made 2 sergeants, David Main and Jeffrey Miller. And those 2 will come back to patrol and oversee patrol groups, and 2 corporals, Corey Vandegrift and Mike Brzezinski. And I refer a lot to Ed and to Steve. And for corporals to be promoted to the first line supervisors, they are the most influential individuals in the organization, even more influential than the sheriff. They are the ones that run the day-to-day operations the corporals and sergeants do in this organization. And we have very, very good corporals and sergeants. And I've made 1 promotion in the detention center. Michael Boyd will be promoted to the rank of corporal out of retirement in the jail. So a lot of movement, a lot of healthy movement, a lot of new ideas, people that we're switching around so that they can see the organization differently and make some changes and make it stronger and better, like Rich said. We certainly have the tools. We have the support. I don't know of any other county or jurisdiction that would bring on a retiree and a new promoted colonel and praise them the way that this group does. And we spar from time to time, the 5 of us, or 6, including Mrs. Wyndham. But at the end of the day, it's always about what's best for the people in this county and the people that work with us and alongside of us. So I'm eternally grateful for the relationship that I have with the 6 of you. And I'm looking at the other 36 on this call and all of those folks, because I can't make all these moves without the support from across the street, county office building, from budget to HR and everybody in between. So we're very grateful for the support that we get, and we will do all this seamlessly and continue to provide a high level of service. So thank you, gentlemen, and Mrs. Wyndham. I appreciate you letting us come on and do this.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. Any of my colleagues have anything for the sheriff or Colonel Hart? Probably. Go ahead, Eric.
Be with you.
All right, listen, on behalf of my colleagues, and you know this because all of us have said this, we've got your backs, and we will continue to have your backs. We have a tremendous, we love our folks in law enforcement, not only with the sheriff's department, but our municipality departments. Rebecca Bosley runs an excellent ship over at the Maryland State Police Barracks in Westminster. So we will always have your backs. So I'll just end it by saying, Colonel Hart, we are certainly looking forward to looking at you eye to eye, sir.
That may not happen, but we'll work on it.
Well, I've asked facilities to allow me to have a step ladder to carry in my vehicle so that I can do that very thing. So there you go.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you today. Colonel Souther, Godspeed, and we'll talk to you guys soon. All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve, in your case, I think it's an extension ladder, but that's a different story.
It was a tall step ladder, Commissioner Rothstein, a tall one. All right. With that, we will move into our first item on our agenda with any state directives. And gosh, we certainly have one of those this week. So let me just say very quickly that we heard from the governor on September the, whatever it was, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it was. And the decision was made to go into the beginning of stage 3. And that includes the provisions that I'll list here. Indoor venues, which includes live performances or movies, can open at 50% capacity or 100 people. Outdoor venues, live performances or movies may open at 50% capacity or 250 people, and religious facilities and retail establishments to open at a 75% capacity. In addition to that, the governor made some comments in reference to some recreational activities, and what has always been since this began, we have followed the path that the governor and his staff have set before us to a T, and it continues today. That consistency remains. And with that, I'll turn it over to our health officer, Ed Singer, for his comments. Ed, good morning.
I was having a problem turning the camera on. Good morning, commissioners, and thanks. I'm going to start off with something just a little bit different this morning. There's all kinds of things that the health department's involved with related to COVID-19, but as schools are reopening virtually, there's still a requirement for childhood immunizations to be up to date in the students, even though most of the students are not going back to school. I know the school system's getting the special education students back into the classroom and the career in tech and some English as a secondary language folks back in the school and other small groups, and that's a good thing to see moving forward. But the childhood immunizations has been a little bit of a problem. It's been a little bit more difficult for people to access their regular primary care providers. And we've been working very closely with the school system, Maryland Partnership for Prevention, the state health department and whatnot, to make sure the kids can get the vaccinations that they're required to have before school officially starts. It's very interesting in this times of COVID-19. As I said, we're seeing record numbers of kids showing up at our clinics. Felipa Gomes at the school system and Maria Carr from the health department have been working very hard on this. And as I said, we're seeing record numbers showing up at the school sites to get vaccinated. COVID-19's driven us in a technology direction. Where we used to do paper forms and things like that for immunizations, we're now having essentially online registrations and online check-in through smartphones and things like that, and linked directly to databases, and they're able to call people in, and as opposed to having to wait in line somewhere, they essentially can check in their car, and then when they arrive, they can say they're there. And we're seeing this all over the place now, where even restaurants and things are having this type of thing where you can check in, and then you get a text message that says, okay, we're ready for you now, and you don't wind up having to wait in line. So I really want to thank the school system for their support and helping make sure we get the kids the vaccinations that they need. It's been a real big push in my staff in the school system, and Maryland Partnership for Prevention and the Department of Health have worked very hard on making sure that we can get these kids vaccinated. And we were actually highlighted amongst the other health officers because we're the first to pilot this electronic check-in and registration program in the state. And it's gone very well for us so far. There's always some glitches, but very, very important to get kids vaccinated. And we're not getting them vaccinated for COVID-19 yet because we don't have a vaccine, but I think that's going to be coming around the corner. But getting them the regular immunizations and getting them back to school, it's very important. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our data like I normally do. If somebody can give me an ability to share the screen, that would be great.
Hey,
Okay, so just our weekly update on some of the numbers.
Hey, Ed, hold on one second. Hey, Chris or Greg, I continue to have callers come in and out of this session. We're getting some feedback. Could you make sure folks are muted because apparently they aren't muting as they come on. Thank you. Okay, Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, hold on just a second now. I put my, So our community cases by week, and that's one of the most important things I think that we're tracking. And, our kind of goal that we had set for the school system was for us to have less than 35 cases in Carroll County. And it's a little different than what the state metric is. And I'm going to be providing the school system with both the state metric and our metric. Our metric just includes the community cases. The state's metric that the governor put out last week includes both the community cases and the facility cases combined. So while their number's a little bit higher for cases and ours is a little bit lower, they're including the facility cases and we're not. So I think the numbers are fairly consistent, but I think the school system's going to take a look at both of them as they're making their decisions about reopening. And we've been trending in a good direction. Unfortunately, I got a little bit of bad news to share this week, even though the graph that's out there shows you that we dropped slightly from last week to this week. We are at a point where as of yesterday, we had 34 cases this week, and I'm sure we're going to be on a bit of an uptick going into next week because we still got several days left in the week, and our cases are already at 34. And this graph here, that kind of reflects what I just said to you. You can see a slight uptick at the end of the graph because it's a rolling 14-day average. And where we had gotten down below the number of 5 cases, average of 5 cases per day that I really want to see us get to, it's starting to uptick a little bit, and we'll have to see what happens with that over the next couple of weeks. We've still got a ways to go before the board gets to the point where they were talking about wanting to make a decision to go back in a hybrid model. I still think we're going to be there when we get to that point, unless people stop doing the right things and we wind up with a trend in the wrong direction. But we're real close right now to those metrics we set with the Board of Education. I think we're in a pretty good place, but people need to stay vigilant, as the commissioners have emphasized. And we may see a slight uptick this week. Hopefully it'll trend back down. I can't tell you what's causing that. I know the governor and a lot of other people at the state level and even at the national level have been talking about, we've got Labor Day weekend coming up, and a lot of these cases that we're seeing are related to family gatherings and large gatherings that we're having socially. And just remind people that even if you get together, and we all need to get together, and we need to be able to live our lives a little bit more, and keeping your distance is still important. And you can get together with friends and still interact and not have to necessarily be as close as we normally are. The next thing, just to mention here, this is our deaths by week. I told you last week we had a couple of deaths over the past couple of weeks in the community. This week we didn't have any new community deaths, but we had 2 facility-related deaths. This chart's a little bit different than what I showed you last week. This is the ICU beds, and this is another metric we've been talking to the school system about as far as ICU bed usage. And if you can look over the last, couple of weeks, since August the 25th, the ICU bed usage has been way down. We're trying to, we want that number to stay below 10 as school reopens so that it's not a strain on the hospital. And actually, Garrett Hoover is going to be joining me with the Board of Education next week when we talk about some of the things other than just the ICU beds that we're looking at, the overall, why the overall number of emergency department visits is important, and why the overall hospital census is important, and understanding, any strain on the hospital. But I think we're in a pretty good spot from the hospital's perspective right now. This graph is the age graph that I've thrown out there a number of times. As you can see, looking at this week, that 18 to 29-year-old age range is still where we're seeing a lot of cases. And again, I think that's a lot because, these folks are young age, and it's getting frustrating for them not to be able to get out with their friends and whatnot. And we're seeing a lot more cases in that age range. If you look over the last month and a half, that age range has been where we've been seeing a lot of cases. There are a few cases that we're seeing in the under 18 age range, but the 18 to 29-year-old range is where we've been seeing a lot of our new case activity. And then Commissioner Bouchot had asked me for hospitalization and death information related to ages. And we put this chart together for you guys to kind of show that. I just want to emphasize that while, we're not seeing a lot of hospitalizations and deaths, and especially in the 0 to 17-year-old range, and not much in the 18 to 44-year-old range even, the reason that we're putting a lot of these restrictions in place and that we're trying to observe all the things that we're observing is so that, most of us that are younger and don't have serious health conditions can get through this disease and weather it. But we want to make sure that we're protecting our grandparents, our parents, our grandparents, and the people that are, age seems to be the biggest factor here. If you take a look at the hospitalizations and deaths, obviously the 0 to 17-year-old range is, we're not seeing a lot of hospitalizations and no deaths in Carroll County at this point. In 18 to 44, we've had one death in that age range. You get up to 45 to 64, you see a little bit more. But if you look at the 65 plus, this is just scary. If you're 65 and over and you wind up in the hospital, there's not a real good chance that you're going to recover from this disease, and you're going to wind up, bottom line is you're going to wind up dead. And it's important for us to keep in mind that those are the people that we're really trying to protect. And as a society, I think we have a responsibility to take care of each other.
Director Singer, appreciate you putting that graph up, as that conveys to the public the importance of what we're faced with, and depending on what age category you fall in, take the greatest precaution as possible in reflection of that graph. So thank you for getting that information together and conveying it to the public.
Yep, no problem, Commissioner. And then the last piece I wanted to share was just a chart, because I wanted to kind of give people a picture of kind of where we are in Carroll County with the youth ages versus statewide and nationally. And if you look at this chart, what basically we've had 90 cases in the pediatric cases at this point, which is a rate of 243 per 100,000 in Carroll County. In the state of Maryland, the average has been 758.8. So we've had a lot fewer pediatric cases than what they're seeing statewide, and a lot fewer cases per 100,000 population than what they're seeing nationwide. And just kind of figure the national and statewide trends are important, because these numbers are relatively low, and this is what we're seeing throughout the country. And it's an important thing to point out. So obviously the hospitalizations, it's been 3.3% of our cases here in Carroll County, and nationwide, we've seen 2.1% of the pediatric cases have needed to be hospitalized. And there have been no deaths in Carroll County in this age category, and a very small percentage in nationally. But again, I want to reemphasize to you all that even though youth and whatnot, that they're definitely contracting the virus, they're definitely spreading the virus, And this is all about trying to protect everybody in our community. And, you know, when I go back to looking at the previous chart and see the number of people who wind up hospitalized, who die, that are in that age 65 plus category, I just don't, you know, age seems to be the biggest factor, and that's a shame that we would I don't know there's anything we could do about that, but it's everything that we're doing is to try to help protect our most vulnerable people in our population. So that said, whoops, clicked the wrong thing. I was gonna leave the meeting. I'm gonna stop sharing and come back, and so now you should have me back. So that's all I really wanted to say about that. I do want to mention, you all talked about going to stage 3, which is an important thing. It allows changes. And, you know, I do want to point out, and a lot of people think we just randomly make some of these decisions, and it's a little concerning to me because it seems like sometimes things at the state level are very unclear, but sometimes what the governor says in a press conference versus what we've gotten in writing, and I've shared with you as commissioners, and I've shared with other people, your staff, in trying to make decisions, aren't always the same thing. And I thought Anne Arundel County was treated very unfairly in that press conference because the Maryland Sports Commission had clearly put out guidance that sports that are close contact needed to be modified while we were in phase 2. And now that we're in phase 3, that same guidance allows us to have more flexibility in what we're doing with sports and whatnot. So I just think, as Commissioner Wentz put out, we're following the state's guidance, and I thought, you know, what's in the statewide guidance from Maryland Department of Health and the Maryland Sports Commission was very clear as to what we were supposed to be doing with these sports in phase 2. Now that we've reached phase 3, things are different, and the recommendations in those guidance documents are different. But I just, you know, I personally felt like Anne Arundel County and we were trying to do the right things following the guidance we had gotten from those state level agencies based on where we were. And now's the right time to make changes because the governor's designated that we've changed the stage we are in this pandemic. So I can't emphasize enough, though, needing to continue to follow the social distancing and mask requirements that are still in place. We actually ran into an issue here in our own health department where, you know, if people don't follow the rules, we wind up with people unnecessarily in quarantine because they've been exposed to somebody who had COVID. There's going to be cases. People are going to get sick, and they could potentially transmit it to other people. And if you don't follow social distancing guidelines, even when you're eating lunch, if you can stay 6 feet apart from the other people, and I know we're all social animals and want to get together and have lunch with each other and whatnot, but if you put 5 people in a room in close proximity and one of them tests positive for COVID, then everybody has to stay home for the next 2 weeks, and that doesn't help anybody. So it's, remember those social distancing requirements are there for a reason. We want to let everybody continue to be at work and get things rolling again and participate in activities and whatnot. The only thing I'd add on the youth sports is we really need to be careful about, again, the closeness of gatherings. We are limited to just the family members for spectators in youth sports, and adult sports can have no spectators. And that, tournaments and traveling to places where there's high level of transmissions put us at higher risk. So we prefer not to see large tournaments and large gatherings of people because that just allows for more transmission. We're not saying that people can't, and we're not saying that people can't travel, but you need to keep in mind that the secretary has out a travel advisory. And when you're looking at where you might be traveling and participating in sports, this is a fairly high risk activity. And if you're going to an area where there's high rates of transmission, really need to be considering whether you should be quarantining yourself and being tested when you return home, because we don't want to spread the virus around our community, and anything we can do to avoid having our numbers come up and further restricting things here, we want to do. So I'll stop there and take any questions you all may have.
Yeah, Ed, I appreciate everything you shared, and you shared a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time. Going back to the one comment that you made that I think is very important, and that has to do with randomness. And I 100% agree with you. There is no actions that we're taking that I believe are random thought actions. We're adhering to the governor's guidelines and the state's guidelines, going into phase 2, going into phase 3, allowing us to make decisions, whether it be with the youth sports or the other activities with businesses in our community in Carroll County. Although we're sympathetic and empathetic to the community and appreciate the input from the community, that those actions were not the decision-making actions that allow us to move forward. And that's important. That's important for folks, I think, to understand is we're taking as much information as possible to allow us to make the right decisions. And the information that is possible is what you provided, along with what the state is allowing us to do. So, you know, it's very interesting because, again, I like to listen and learn what people have to say, but sometimes just by listening and learning doesn't mean that we're making decisions from that. That would be randomness. And I agree with you. The acts that we're taking are not random. Now, going to Commissioner Wance, I can't remember when the governor gave guidelines and allowed the counties and jurisdictions to, you know, either adhere to them or lessen those guidelines, because I know Baltimore City is not taking all the actions that the governor allows. Didn't we, as a Board of Commissioners, do we either vote or just accept the guidelines? I just can't remember. I thought we accept them like as written, and everything he allows us to do, we're going to keep doing. And if we want to push forward, we write a letter. And I want to make it very clear. That's all.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. We have decided throughout this whole ordeal, Ed, to continue on that pathway of adhering to what his team, and this is an important point here. You know, his team consists of a lot of health experts, and you know, you can say what you want, but it's important to remember that and this is just me, but removing the politics out of all this is extremely important. I didn't take any medical courses when I went to college, and I'm not here to say that, but I know people that did. Now, whether you agree or disagree with them or not, they're on that team and they're giving us the information. So yes, we as a board decided early in that we would continue to move in the direction that we were instructed to move in and sort of mirror the path of what the governor and his team and his pathway was. So yes, that's correct.
Right. So do we need to do that with his, you know, proper executive order going into phase 3? Is that an action that we're going to be taking this morning?
We've always made it kind of official. I don't know that we've ever taken a vote on it, but because we set that pathway, we've always just all agreed that we would continue to follow that. And I think that's what we can do here today. You know, I hesitate, unless someone has a problem with it, I hesitate to start taking votes on things, because then you're pushing it into the political realm. And this is not political. This pandemic is not political. So I think, unless my colleagues disagree, I think we can just continue on the path that we always have, to say we are going to just move forward as instructed.
And I definitely don't want to just make this just two of us, but I remember the one action that the governor allowed us to do was dealing with the businesses. And I remember, you know, Dennis, you really pushed, and I 100% agree with you. Let's focus ourselves on the restaurants and try to work to get the restaurants open. So, you know, in looking at what the governor has provided, are there actions that we want to say, yes, we agree 100% with everything he's allowing us, and here are actions we want to him continue and his team continue to look for in, you know, in taking to the next step? I don't think there are right now, but I think that's a conscious decision that I think all of us need to make. And I don't know. So.
Roberta, your mic's lit.
I was just gonna say, what you've done in the past is, only if there's some exception, like
Right.
as said Commissioner Rothstein with the restaurants. The governor was not opening our restaurants as fast as you would have liked, and so you sent a letter to the governor requesting some changes with regard to that. But otherwise, the board has just followed along.
So, you guys have all had a chance to see the beginning of stage 3. Are there any thoughts on doing anything differently? I don't think that there are. I mean, I can take it with a nod. I believe we're going in the right direction by continuing that pathway. Is that a yes from all you guys? Yeah, I see that. Okay. Well, then that's what we'll do. And again, listen, I appreciate the passion and the fact that folks, and Ed, Jeff, all of you on here, you can appreciate the frustration and the anger that we hear sometimes. But and Ed, I think you put it very well. Commissioner Rothstein, you put it very well. We certainly listen to all of that. We do. We don't turn a deaf ear to any of that. But it's important as a county here to do what other counties have done, not all, but others, in following the pathway that's set forth by the experts. So that's what we decided, I think, here this morning. I was pretty sure that's what you all were going to do this morning. So just wanted to, as a disclaimer, I did talk to the governor's office about 40 minutes ago because they wanted to know what we were going to do in Carroll. And some of the news agencies also called and said, what are you all going to do? And my answer to them was, we're going to do what we've always done, followed that pathway. So that's what I shared with the governor's office this morning in a phone call that I had with them. So Ed, do you have anything else on that?
That's all I really have for you, commissioners. Just again, to remind folks, it's so important that we do what we can to make sure that we're not bringing this back to the disease back to those vulnerable populations. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you next week.
Mr. Singer, thank you very much. Your briefings are really good for us in policy and the public in general. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks, Ed. And I know Jeff Daggett is on here this morning. Jeff, as the Director of Rec and Parks, did put out a press release last evening in reference to the youth sports. And again, that was right down the consistent pathway of following in the route that the governor has set forth. So, Jeff, unless there's more, I don't know, unless you want to weigh in here on this one, or are we good there? Yeah, certainly, we'll pass it to you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just very briefly, I was thinking back, and 6 months ago, we were closing playgrounds and taking down basketball hoops and outdoor basketball courts, things that I never thought we would do. That seems so long ago now. We did it for a reason. Our numbers have improved. Things have moved in the right direction. And believe me, nothing made me happier than to put that press release out yesterday and to remove the restrictions from these sports to allow the kids to participate fully. And we're very happy to see that. They've been out there, they've been playing, but now they can do it fully. And we just ask that the parents, the spectators, as limited as they are, just following up on Ed's comments, remember the state orders that are in place. Remember the face coverings. Remember the social distancing. Nobody wants to go back to where we were 3 months or 6 months ago. We want to keep this moving in a positive direction. And last, but certainly not least, I really want to recognize and thank the volunteers. They've done a heck of a job. That's a tough job to volunteer under any circumstances. To do it during a pandemic, that sets a whole new level of commitment. And they've done that without fail, they come out and do it under difficult circumstances, and it's because they want to support the kids in the community. So we thank them for their job well done.
Okay, Jeff, well said. Thank you. And you make a very good point, and I will remind folks that this pandemic is not by any means over. We received this morning, and we always pay attention to surrounding jurisdictions because it's very important. Gettysburg College has now shut down, and they are all quarantined up there. They're not removing the students off the campus, but they're all quarantined now because they've had an uptick in cases. Southwestern School District, right next door to my district up here, started the school year, and now they've shut down for a week. So I don't know what part of not being complacent that folks may not understand, but we cannot emphasize strongly enough that we have got to continue on this pathway because, again, I ask the question, we're moving in the right direction. Who wants to go the other way? Show of hands. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Anything else on the state directives of COVID? Jeff, thank you. Mr. Singer, thank you as always. And well said, Eric. He's been sharing some great statistics and graphs. Keeps us right there where we need to be, and we'll see you next week. With that said, I'll turn it over to Roberta Wyndham for the second item on our agenda, and that's our Coronavirus Relief Fund plan and where we are with that. Roberta, good morning.
Good morning. Not a lot different this week from last. Mostly we're just continuing to implement what we planned in the beginning. The couple weeks ago, I guess it was, the board did make that modification to the plan to add an eviction prevention piece. And I'm happy to report that that program started on Tuesday, the 1st of September. I had to look at my calendar a second. And we already have folks who've applied, and so that seems to be going quite well. And I have Jack here to talk about the latest on the Carroll Rebound program, and also Jeff Castonguay to give a little update on where the county stands on some of the more facility-related issues in the plan. Jack?
Good morning, Commissioners. Just a quick update for everybody. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Were you ready for me? Sorry. Okay. Low-touch door handles, faucet retrofits, and touchless soap and towel dispensers have been installed. I think there's the last couple of just items are going in, but pretty much 99.8% complete. Thank you again last week for the ability for us to go out to get the bid for the HVAC UV lighting. We immediately, seconds after the board approved that, we got in touch with them and things were ordered. We're working with the supplier and the contractors to perform some of the required pre-wiring and modifications needed prior to their arrival, since there's about an 8-week lead time right now. I mean, we're kind of with everybody else in the U.S. and matter of fact, the world, trying to install these units. So we're gonna try to get as much pre-work done as we can. So as soon as they arrive, we'll be set to go. Zoning office modifications are complete, and everybody's now properly separated as needed in that office in order to meet the citizens' needs. Permits and commissioner's hearing room plexiglass has been ordered. We're just still waiting on delivery. Another one of those items that everybody out there is just waiting on. North Carroll storage area warehouse is set up and now receiving supplies, so that's working out well. Temperature kiosks have been ordered. We expect them by the end of the week. 911 center workstations for the reorganization, expansion, separation of the employees from each other, since they do basically spend a lot of time together in those rooms. We're finishing up the load calculations for electrical and also the heat that comes off of those workstations, because that is a critical piece of it. Is you don't want you don't want to have a room that's with all that computer equipment giving off so much heat. So we're working with the design team on that to make sure that we set it up right the first time. So that's the quick update for today.
Hey, Jeff, I have a question for you. You said there's an 8-week lead-in time before we get those lights put up for the HVAC systems. Is that 8 weeks between each phase? Because I know we talked about phasing this in 3 different phases, or is that 8 weeks and we're going to hit all 3 of them because we did kind of authorize up to $500,000 for this?
That's 8 weeks for the first delivery of the first phase of work that we're looking at, or that we have being completed. We wanted to get the initial order in and start getting those manufactured. But the other phases to be right behind it, because there's no way the contractor can come in and do all of our buildings all at the same time. It's just going to be logistically impossible. So we're putting a little gap of about a week or 2 in between to provide for installation.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions for Jeff, then we'll turn it over to Jack to give you an update on where Carroll Rebound stands.
Morning, Commissioners. Roberto. Last week was a busy week for us. We received applications for 40 businesses, 1 nonprofit, and 11 farms. It gives us a total of 400 businesses now, 32 nonprofits, and 33 farms. We sent out all the memos and we sent emails, and we personally called the restaurants. Originally, on our first go around, we had 42 restaurants that applied. We've gone out to all of them, and 21 of them have come back with additional cost, only about half of them. The nonprofits still, we've only had a couple in the last couple of weeks. I can tell you the state program ended yesterday for the nonprofits. It seems like most of them is that we're getting out of the 40 businesses, most of them have been the home business and farms. Farms seem to be, we're out there, out there trying to market and call the farms. It looks right now, we've counting what we got in last night, we're probably going to be somewhere around $1.9 million. At this rate, we'll have a good, over $1 million that we will not spend. Remember, we had $4 million. We're still going to be about 2.5, 2.6. It could be as much as $1.5 million, but the conservative would be a solid $1 million that it's going to be left in the program at the end of September. We mailed all the postcards out, almost 5,000 postcards. We sent emails to companies. Like I said, we walked up and down the streets, all main streets. I don't know what else we can do. We bid articles in the paper. We're out there talking to everybody we can. But the companies are, a couple of them are saying things are good. A couple of them are saying we really don't have any more expenses that we can give you. So it's kind of an update for, like I said, 400 businesses, 32 nonprofits, and 33 farms so far, and about $1.85 million. And we are turning them around like in a couple of days and sending them up to accounting, and the checks are going out in 2 weeks now. We're still in a 2-week cycle.
Hey, Jack, that's a great roll up. And I think you are doing, you and the team are doing just a fantastic job. I'll let you know, I received a postcard in the mail for my business. I am not going to be submitting any request or require for dollars, but it's working is what I'm sharing. And I did not see what the card was going to be. It's a very professional looking postcard with a lot of information on it. So I'm looking forward for other home-based businesses to take advantage of that, and see what they can do. I think what we need to do is now really look at what else do we want to do with that type of money that may still be, in our coffers. And if that's, looking at the fire departments, looking at other opportunities. Roberta, are you going to be working with staff to provide us recommendations to how we should do this up in a be prepared approach, or how's that going to work?
Yes, as it gets closer to the end of September, and the numbers are more realistic, we'll have some recommendations for you. So that's it for today, unless there are any other questions about the CRF plan and its implementation. Okay.
No, I think that's it. I want to point out that Jack, thank you. I actually did, I hand delivered one of those things the other day to a business. So I even got involved. So
Thank you.
my favorite pizza shop, they either weren't paying attention or hadn't gotten it yet or something. But anyway, I hand delivered it to them. So your efforts have been amazing. So well done to you and your team down there.
Well, it's a team too. But thank you, everyone.
Absolutely.
Everyone should be out there, telling these companies to send their request in.
Yeah.
We're definitely.
Commissioner, did you get a free pizza?
For the record, no, I did not. Okay, just want to make that clear. Did not. No free lunch for me. Roberta, the only thing I wanted to point out was Jeff brought up the fact that plexiglass has been ordered for our hearing room. So there was some question about, well, we're in the beginning stages of phase 3 now. What does that mean for activities at the office building? We're still maintaining our by appointment only status until we get everything in place. And I think that's going to maintain for a while, because we can't, as we've been talking about not being complacent, I think we have to remain with that same mode there. So until we get that in place, we're still where we are with virtual. And we're going to have to remember, even when we do go back, there's going to be a huge emphasis on the number of people that are allowed in the rooms that we have at the office building. And it's not going to be like it used to be, where it's standing room only, because I think in our hearing room and even downstairs, the numbers are small. So we're going to have to continue to do that. So that'll be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll get through it. I think right now we're doing well. So best practices in place before we move forward. Anything else for you on the relief funding?
No, other than I did my part too. I took my flyer or postcard to my dentist. So hopefully they'll apply too. But anyway, thank you, gentlemen. That's it for us.
Okay, very good. Anything else on that one, guys, for anybody? All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move down through the agenda here, continue, because we have quite a few items here this morning. Engineering services for the Gillis Falls Trail Park. And for that, I'm going to let Mike Myers set the stage, and then Jeff Daggetts is on here. Mike, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, we are here to request for approval to award a contract for the planning, surveying, and engineering services for the Gillis Falls Trail Park to Pannoni Associates in the amount of $49,500. That'll include all the planning and design services for the parking lot, the trail, the stormwater management plan. So basically everything associated with the design and engineering of the trail. So I'll let Jeff tell you a little bit about the project.
Thank you, Mike. This is a 1 mile long trail. It would be a connection between the Carroll County Equestrian Center and Saltbox Park. This is phase 1 of a 2-phase project. And this was actually in the CIP many years ago, and design plans were started back in 2006. And those plans were pretty far along. The company that was involved with them was Patton Harris Rust. They have since been purchased by Pannoni. Pannoni has those same plans. They have great familiarity with the project. So they are looking to pick it up at this point and move forward. This is budgeted in our CIP. $467,000 are budgeted for this year. You may also recall that we received approval for a $300,000 recreational trails program grant in addition to the local funds that are budgeted. So the design money, the design contract is to get this ready to move through the planning commission, get final approval, and then the construction documents would be drawn from that. There's a couple of stream crossings and there's wetlands in the area. So it's a beautiful area, but it's also a little bit challenging in places for the design. So we're asking for your support to award that contract to Pannoni.
Jeff.
This project.
But go ahead, everybody else. All right, Jeff, I have a question for you. This is going to connect two parks, basically. Is this connecting them to just the two areas? You know what I mean? Is this an extension of a trail from the equestrian center to the next park, or is it just connecting the two parks with this particular trail?
It's actually connecting to roadside parking on Grimville Road, which is a very short distance from the equestrian center. There'll be some side trails that connect down to this. Some of this trail is in place now. Some of it has not been developed at all. This was a former church camp back in that area, Camp Woodbrook. So it will provide a connection from Grimville Road, and it will go up to Gillis Falls Road, and it'll utilize the parking lot at Saltbox Park. And then the next phase of this would go from Gillis Falls Road up to Gillis Road. And that will be in a future year of our CIP.
Thank you.
There was some, if I remember right, some grounds we didn't own, maybe next to one of the roads there. If I remember right, when you first came up, I got a phone call. Has that been resolved?
There are some grounds in the second phase where it becomes a little bit challenging. Once you cross Gillis Falls Road, and then moving from Gillis Falls up to Gillis Road, that's where we run into those issues. And we're confident that that can be addressed between now and when the funding would become available for that. Everything in this first phase is county owned.
Well, this is absolutely beautiful countryside. I'll hike it back there. It'll be nice to be able to get through there without a stick to chop my way through the woods, to have a nice open trail. And I also look forward to doing a tour with you to show me what's all happened with it. With that, I move the Board of Commissioners award the contract for the planning, surveying, and engineering services for the Gillis Falls Trail to Pannoni Associates, Inc. in the amount of $49,500.
Second.
All right, any other questions on this project? Jeff, Mike? If not, all those in favor? That's unanimous. So well done there, Jeff. And yeah, we look forward to that project. That's a good one. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have another town-county agreement. Today is Taneytown. And Deb Effingham is on, our Bureau Chief and Budget. Deb, good morning.
Good morning. I'm seeking approval this morning for our final town-county agreement. This is the FY21 City of Taneytown in the amount of $332,392. And this is exactly what is in our FY21 budget. Are there any questions?
Anybody need a refresher on where Taneytown is? Everybody good? All right, I'll make the motion that we approve the FY21 town-county agreement with the City of Taneytown.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion in 2 seconds, which that's a good sign. All those in favor? Very good. Thank you. Thanks, Deb. That's unanimous. Thank you. All right, we move back to Westminster now and HR, and we're going to discuss health and dental insurance, employee rates, and I believe there's our director of HR, Ms. Frock. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. So today, obviously Kim Frock, Director of HR. It's a little later than usual, but it is that time of year again where we come before you to present the employee contribution rates for health and dental benefits for the next calendar year. Before we move on to the next slides, just as a reminder, we are self-insured for both our health and dental benefits. Therefore, that means the county does not pay premiums to an insurance company. We pay fixed costs, which are our admin costs for administrative fees, for the contracts and stop loss premiums, and variable costs, which are actually the health claims. And that's all paid to our third-party administrator. While the county does maintain the risk for claims being self-insured, we also benefit when claims are lower than anticipated. So for instance, if our third-party administrator anticipates 20 million in claims and we only have 18, we benefit from that $2 million cost avoidance. If we were fully insured, the insurance company would keep that extra money that they had billed us for. Again, being self-insured, it's our responsibility to establish the employer and employee contributions. We utilize costs projected by our third-party administrators. We also review and analyze our actual claims experience and the level of our individual stop loss coverage, which currently is $300,000 per individual per year. Just as a reminder, this information is not provided to the employees, the rates, prior to being presented to the board. Once the decision on the rates is finalized, then the employees will be advised by email. For those that aren't actually watching this, because it seems to be when I'm on here, it's must-see TV. Chris, can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, so after analyzing our most recent 22 months of claims data, and that's taking into account that April and May were obviously off because of COVID. We weren't seeing much claims for those 2 months because doctors really weren't seeing too many patients. Our annual projected trend increase is slightly below 5%. Now that's compared to our third-party administrators' book of business, which is 7.9%, which is how they calculated our claims. But again, we are running lower than them, and we have been for the past 5 years. So after our analysis of the claims data, our trend experience, and the stop loss coverage, our internal service fund balance, and discussions with the budget office, we're recommending the following for the medical benefits for calendar year 2021. Increasing our individual stop loss coverage from $300,000 to $375,000. That means we would pay the first $375,000. Oops, Chris, go back one. Thank you. And then the insurance company would pick up after that. By moving to $375,000, we will be avoiding costs of another $343,000 for increase in premium if we stay at the $300,000 level. In the past 7 years, we've only had one a year, people that hit the stop loss. The stop loss has been the same since calendar year 14, and we felt through discussions with budget that it was time to move that up because we are a little low based on other folks. For instance, the Board of Ed had been $450,000 for years. So, you know, we're still not there, but we are moving it up, and we think that's prudent to do. We would also recommend that we maintain the contribution rates for employees the same as the calendar year 2020. Holding those rates flat will actually be a cost shift of about $50,000 from the employees to the county. So not a huge increase. The increase would not have been much had we stayed with the 8 and 11%, but we think it's doable to stay at the same rates and would recommend that as well. Again, we have a healthy ISF balance and don't see any issues with this. And we have vetted this through budget, and they're not in disagreement. So we're fine there. Chris, can you move to the next slide for the dental? Okay, for dental, anticipated claim costs are really hard for predicting for 21. We assume they're going to be similar to 19 actually, because 20 is way off because the dentist stopped seeing patients in March. So this year we're not spending nearly as much as we anticipated. We expect that to remain flat and would also ask that those rates stay the same for 21 for the employee contribution rates. You guys have any questions? quiet bunch. All right, so again, after giving you these recommendations, based on our thorough review, we would request your approval for the increase in the stop loss coverage from 300 to 375 and maintain the 2020 rates into 21 for employees. And again, we couldn't do this without the ongoing support of our employees. They are great healthcare consumers, and we expect to continue to see their health purchase behaviors help us keep our healthcare trends low. They've done a great job, and I don't anticipate anything changing there. Next slide, please, Chris. Okay, so what's coming up next? Open enrollment, it's going to be different. We will be sending out information electronically this time. We will also have paper for those that can't do it electronically. They will start going out no later than October 12th. Open enrollment runs from October 12th to November 16th. And we are going to have a virtual health fair week, which is the week of October 12th. The first day will be registration, and then we're going to have events each day. So we ask employees to tune in and have some fun. We have events all throughout the day, and we will even have some in the evenings so that the family members can participate as well. They will still be able to talk to the vendors and talk to HR if they have any issues. We'll be online with the vendors as well. Our flu shots will be on October 14th. I know I said we'd be doing drive-by. Evidently, that's not going to work, but we're going to be doing stop-by flu shots. And we would like to thank the Farm Museum staff in advance, as they will be instrumental in sending up the area for us for the flu shots. And we thank Jack for offering us that assistance. So that's what I have. So now it's any questions from you all.
Questions for Kim? I'm still trying to get over the fact that she thinks she's must-see TV and we're not, but whatever. Any questions for Kim?
The employees, then I must see TV.
I'd like to move the Board of Commissioners approve the employee contribution rates for health and dental insurance as recommended by Human Resource.
I'll second that. All the dental insurance is hard to get my teeth around, but it's okay.
Not even sure where to go from there.
Yeah.
Let's just vote. Yeah, let's just vote very quickly. All those in favor? Very good. Thank you, Kim, for the hard work on that. And again, you were quite clear. It ultimately goes to our employees who are very mindful. Yeah, who are very mindful about this, and you know, together and with the way in which they are seeing cost savings there, we can keep these rates down, and that's very, very important. So, well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and for the employees, thank you. They really appreciate it.
Real quick, a technical question. Did that motion cover increasing our liability as well? Because you mentioned two things, the rates and the increase in our liability. I just wanted to make sure that motion covered that as well.
Commissioner Weaver, did you mention stop loss in there?
The motion said the recommendations by the Human Resources, so that covers both.
All right.
No, well, actually, it says contribution rates for health and dental insurance as recommended. So I think you're right. You should probably do one. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah, let's do a separate one for the other one, because you're right, Eric, because this, if you read that word for word, Dick, it clearly just talks about the rates. So, Kim, the wording for that one would be, we approve
Approve the stop loss coverage to move from 300,000 to 375,000.
Right, and that was both for health and dental, right? That was for
not for dental. That's just for health. I hope we don't have $375,000
yeah,
claims.
right. Yeah, got it. Okay.
I'll make the motion that we raise stop loss coverage from 300,000 to 375,000.
Second.
Okay. All right, got a motion and second. All those in favor? Okay, now we've got it all covered. All right.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Kim. Okay. Woodside Stormwater Management, retrofit and stream restoration. And Mike, you can set the stage. And looks like maybe Tom. We'll see where we go here. I don't see Chris yet, but Mike said, there he is. There's Chris. Right in, how could I miss you, Chris? Right in the middle. Good grief. All right, Mike, set the stage for us.
All right, hello again. This time we'd like to receive your approval to award a contract for the Woodside Stormwater Management Retrofit and Stream Restoration to Magstone LLC in the amount of $1,383,671.71. County put this out to bid. It was quite a popular project. We received 15 bids. And as you can see from the briefing paper, 50% of the construction costs are going to be paid for by grant monies. So it's only going to be covered 50% by the county.
Okay.
So Chris, Tom can tell you a little bit about the project.
Yeah, Chris, we'll turn it over to you to give us a little background here.
Sure, good morning. So this project is located in the Woodside subdivision in Eldersburg, and it includes the restoration of 2 stormwater management facilities and also the restoration of about 1,200 linear feet of stream corridor. And as Mike mentioned, we have grant funding that is covering 50% of the construction costs. And also we were pleasantly surprised that MDE allowed us to go back and recoup some of the design A&E costs associated with the project as well. So that's why the total grant is greater than 50% of the construction bid. So happy to answer any questions you have.
I'll tell you, I'm pleasantly surprised at that as well, that MD is actually, or the state or anybody of higher is allowing us to use money that wasn't executed before. So that's good stuff. This is all within our budget, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'll move that the Board of Commissioners award a contract to Woodside Stormwater Management Retrofit and Stream Restoration to Magstone LLC in an amount of $1,383,671.71.
Second.
Okay, any questions on this project? If not, all those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right. Lineborough Road, East Culvert Repairs. And Mike, you're still up.
All right, now we would like to request for approval to award a contract for the Lineborough Road East culvert installation or repair to Stan Balls in the amount of $57,949. We put this project out to our term contractors. We had 2 responses, and Stan Balls was the lowest bidder.
Okay, Chris or Doug, which one? Doug, you got this one?
Yes, I've got it this morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday.
Yep, go ahead, Doug.
Commissioners, we have been working to resolve some issues of drainage on this particular portion of Lineborough Road East. We received some consultation from engineers to find a solution. We are pleased to say that the original engineering estimate for this work was about 1/3 higher than our lowest bid price. So we were extremely happy to see this. With this project, we hope to resolve these issues from now and into the future. And we ask your concurrence to allow us to spend this money, which is in our budget, in the amount of $57,949 to correct this issue on Lineborough Road East. Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, any questions for Doug on this one?
I move the Board of Commissioners award the contract to Lineborough Road East Culvert install to Stan Balls Incorporated in the amount of $57,949.00.
Second.
And with that being said, this project makes a lot of sense because that's been an interesting area. I'm very familiar with where this is. So well done, Doug, to you and the team there. to get this to a reasonable resolution. So thank you. Any questions on this one? All those in favor? Thank you. Unanimous, Doug. Thank you. All right. 2020 pipe culvert and storm drain rehabilitation. And Mr. Myers.
Now we would like to request your approval to award a contract for the 2020 pipe culvert and storm drain rehabilitation with the bid alternate number 1, the Granite Inliner, in the amount of $522,820. Again, we put this out to bid, received 3 bids, and Granite Inliner was the lowest bidder.
Chris.
Good morning, thank you. This project includes placing approximately 3,600 linear feet of cured in place pipe and pipe culverts and storm drain segments ranging in size from 15 inches to 30 inches in diameter. The roadways in this contract are part of our current pavement rehabilitation contract. This type of work will extend the life of the pipes another 30 to 40 years. There's some studies that say it'll last 50 years. However, the oldest pipe out there is only 48 years old today. The estimate to replace these pipes in kind is about $760,000, a savings of over $235,000. In addition to the savings, the repair method is much less intrusive, than a full replacement, with some of these pipes in some homeowners' yards, which would cause a lot of disturbance in those areas. We haven't used this contractor before. However, they've done significant amount of work with the City of Westminster, Town of New Windsor, and also Howard County. Any questions?
Questions for Chris on this? Well, hearing none, I'll make the motion that we award the contract for the 2020 pipe culvert and storm drain rehabilitation with alternate number 1 to Granite Inliner LLC in the amount of $522,820.
Second.
Okay. We've got a motion in 2 seconds. All in favor? Very good. Thank you. That's unanimous, Chris. Well done. Well done on that one. Important to note here that that project's going to save the county a lot of money in years to come. So that's
Yes,
that's very important. Okay. We go from culvert and storm drains to police vehicles. That's pretty important too. So with that, Mr. Myers.
And finally, today, we'd like to request your approval to purchase 16 police vehicles from Hertrick Fleet Services in the total amount of $542,768. That's $33,923 per vehicle, and we're purchasing these off the State of Maryland contract.
All right, that's a pretty sharp looking picture there. Vic, you want to weigh in on this one?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is just the purchase request from Ford for the actual vehicle from the manufacturer. So that's why we're before you now for our FY21 Interceptor patrol vehicles to get those purchased so we can get them into production with Ford.
Hey, Vicki, is this a one-to-one swap in vehicles?
Yes, they're all replacements, sir.
And the replacement vehicles are gonna go back or go up for auction?
I'll say, Keith, I guess it all depends where they wind up, but they all get replaced out through our operational fleet. Is that the way to put that, Keith?
They are either going to replace, if something dies in the meantime and one of these vehicles is being replaced, it may take the place of that. But ultimately, 16 vehicles will be going to auction, yes.
Okay, that's why I figured. I appreciate it. I'll move the Board of Commissioners award the contract for the purchase of 16 new police vehicles from Hertrick Fleet Services in the total amount of $542,768.00.
I'll second that. And how long will it take to get them?
It depends on the production schedule. Once they get through and the order gets placed, then the dealer kind of keeps us in the loop as to when they get in production and when they move through that process. So I don't have an exact date at the moment. It all depends.
Typically for new vehicles, it's 3 months. Everything has been moving a little slower because their factories have been shut down.
I need to ask, how old are the vehicles we're replacing?
It will depend. As Keith alluded to, it depends on what has happened to some of them. They could range from 7, 8 years old. It all depends. That's the typical age we look at. I know, Keith, that you look at maintenance issues, any kind of obviously damage, anything where they're deadlined, if you will. Lots of different combinations, but there's a target where we start looking at a certain level of mileage and an age, which is typically around that 7-year mark.
All right. And one other question, when we purchase these vehicles, are we going to come back again and purchase new equipment to outfit them all with, or they come with everything that they need?
No, you're correct. That would be later when we get through and get ready for the outfitting process. Okay.
Mr. Vogel, I want to thank you for getting a photo of that vehicle up so we can get a perspective. That is a very impressive looking photo.
You're welcome.
It's a Ford, Eric. It's a Ford. Never mind. I can tell you from personal experience that Ford's really backed up right now. So just letting you all know that. So the 3 months might be generous, Keith. We'll see. Yeah. So it's good to try to get this order in as quickly as possible because I know they're running about 2 months behind apparently. So, all right. Any other questions on the new Ford Interceptors? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Keith.
You're welcome. Thank you, commissioners. Have a good day.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is as a result of some discussion that we had back on August the 20th in reference to community solar energy generating systems. And we had a lot of questions, and Tom said that he'd get back to us on some of those. So we're going to do some additional discussion here. And for that, Tom, maybe a briefing just to remind us, and then we'll roll from there. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm joined today by Clay Black with the your Chief of Development Review, and Brenda Denny, who's our Special Projects Coordinator, for any questions that may involve a little bit more detail. So just as a follow-up, we're here to provide you additional information that we hope address the issues that arose in this discussion previously. And we hope to gain your permission then to proceed to the Planning and Zoning Commission with this conceptual zoning text amendment. So just as a reminder, what we're discussing today is community solar, which is clearly defined in the state law. There are limitations to that effort. The 2 megawatt maximum, some of the siting requirements, that's all dictated by the state of Maryland. What we're looking at doing is allowing it, or potentially allowing it in Carroll County, which now it only is allowed in commercial industrial zones. So we were directed to look at the agricultural district, specifically at remaining portions. What we're proposing you to allow is the solar development, community solar development on the 5 to 20 acre remaining portions, no variances to that. We don't want to be able to allow any splitting up of larger pieces to create these smaller pieces. So it's a very confined amount of land that we were looking at. And I think we gave you those numbers the last time we were with you. And also we mapped them according to the corridors that the Department of Natural Resources and some of the industry recommendations that they gave us. So again, we looked at that from a mapping perspective and looked at the number of acres we have there, which we reported to you the last time. The other thing that we're looking at in the text amendment would be, protecting environmental resources on these properties. There'd be a site plan requirement. They'd be co-location with agricultural activities. So we're looking at, pollinator friendly activities there, or manage them for other ag uses. and then a landscape buffer, specific landscape buffers that would look, we hope, more like hedgerows and all that would blend in with the agricultural nature of the location of these proposed facilities. Again, our whole goal there was to try to make them blend in and make them part of the agricultural setting out there, as opposed to having them out there, looking like some type of industrial development or whatnot. Ground mounted, they'd be limited to 15 feet in height. And then we would also require an abandonment and decommissioning plan as part of our public works agreement process that we already have in place for site plan processes. So with that in mind, there were several issues that came up the last time we met with you. The first thing was, I think Commissioner Weaver brought up about the issue of noxious or weeds or invasive species, and we certainly can incorporate that into any code with the whole pollinator friendly issues. There's some discussion about that in the pollinator friendly designation that the state provides, but we want to make sure it's reinforced in the code. So we've looked into that, and we think that's something that we can do, and we would refer basically to state code, a lot of the state code requirements with that process. We also, you were asked about tax implications, and that was something that we had thought about right at the last minute and didn't have any details. We've done a little bit more research on it. And so I'm going to provide you kind of basics of it. If you have any further questions, Brenda did a little bit more in-depth look at it, but I think I want to put a disclaimer that the three of us are not tax experts in any way, shape, or form, but I think we have the information that you'll need here to kind of grasp the concept. So basically, these remaining portions are zoned agricultural. They may or may not be used in an agricultural nature, and they may or not be used in agricultural nature according to the state. So the tax assessment on any property is based on its use, not its zoning. All right. So in the state of Maryland, on properties less than 20 acres, which that's what we'll be looking at here, they're required to apply to the state assessment office with a declaration of intent if they want to continue to get the agricultural exemption that they get. And that exemption, then you have to continue its agricultural use for 5 consecutive years in order to gain that tax rate that the agricultural users have. If it does not remain in that, then you will have to go back to the state and you're required to report. And that then sets you into a different tax category, and you must pay the transfer tax at that point in time. And depending on what's going on there may be other things that are assessed also. So should these community solar take place on these parcels, on these remaining portions, they will be required to notify the state. And at that point in time, the state could apply the agricultural transfer tax, and the use would actually change there and the assessment would change so that they would gain a more commercial rate of assessment than the agricultural rate of assessment. So I think that very briefly answers the question of what happens when these properties would change. And the other thing to keep in mind is it could only be on a portion of the property. So the assessment could change just where the solar is taking place. And if it's another piece of the remaining portion left, that may not be taxed at that rate. So it could be based just on that commercial use. Say they only use 10 of the 20 acres, the 10 acres could be assessed at the commercial rate and the other would remain agricultural if it's staying in the agricultural use. All right. Any questions on that part of it? Okay. There was one additional item that came up that Commissioner Weaver forwarded to us for consideration I want to bring up, and that was whether we want to consider some type of permanent preservation of these parcels if, in fact, they were developed in a solar manner. So in other words, and Commissioner, please correct me if I'm getting anything wrong that we've discussed. So if these parcels were converted to solar, that in exchange for that ability, that's a permanent preservation easement would be placed on them so that when they came out of solar, that easement would remain in place to protect these lands from future development. Because remember, these remaining portions, just to emphasize, most of them, almost 90-some% of them, 95% of them, have no more potential development on them from a residential standpoint. But they are able to develop under the zoning text with certain uses that are allowed in the agricultural zone that are non-residential. So I believe what we're looking at here is preserving them in perpetuity from any types of uses other than the agricultural use during the solar and post-solar. Did I get that correct, Commissioner Weaver?
Yeah, I would like to, think that they're in the county perpetual easement. And with that, we put a statement, no further residential, industrial or commercial uses will be allowed on those. So now solar, yes, or something like that. But we put that statement in. I think that would be great for that. Believe me, I'm all in favor of getting solar panels in these parcels. I think this is a great initiative here.
I would just say there's two things I just want to bring up. I mean, it doesn't fit directly into our current preservation program per se, but we could morph this into it, obviously. The other thing is, I'm just slightly concerned about what the advantage is to the property owner doing this now, because I don't know exactly how long these leases last. I think what I've heard is a lot of them are between 10 and maybe 20 years right now, and we don't have that many. So, when you come out of that, then you would have this perpetual easement on there, which, I have no problem doing if we think that incentive will be there and enough to allow for the solar development to take place on the properties. So we're open to that. We certainly can push that or include that in what we're proposing and move through the gauntlet that we have ahead of us with the Planning Commission and the public and everybody else, if that's your choice.
I have to say, I like that idea, and Nick and I have talked about this a couple of times already. I do like the idea of putting that in Ag Pres. However, I'd like to hear what other people say about that. If we put it out there that says this is what's going to happen with it, what do the people who own the property think about it? What do this is going to have to go before a public hearing before this goes. Am I right about that part? Goes through public hearing first.
Absolutely.
So we could hear from other people what they think about it and make a decision at that point. But I would like to see that included in there because I do think it's a good idea because then it gives us how many more acres of Ag Pres in the county as we're shooting for our goal of 100,000 acres. It helps us along the way. And also I think it encourages solar development into the future because if you can still use your land's in Ag Pres now, but you can still put after your 20-year or 10-year agreement ends, you can still put more solar on there or better solar, more quality or whatever you want to call it. I think it incentivizes you to put more solar on and, or extend your agreement. So I like both those aspects of that.
I want to say just one thing with this. These smaller parcels, I think you just saw the value of them in the last several months as what I'm going to say commercial agriculture kind of fell apart in the large packing plants and some of the movement of grain and things like that on the large scale. These small parcels with solar to help supplement their income can actually provide a great deal of food and provide a lot of necessity items to people immediately, where they don't have to go through large processes or whatever. And you have all examples all over the county where these small little parcels and their sustainable agriculture actually stepped up and did a lot for 20, 30 other people. And we forget they're out there. We forget that that part of agriculture is very important. And that's why I kind of originally thought about this idea, and we just saw the effects of it and how important it can be.
All right, anybody else want to weigh in on that aspect of it? I mean, I get the importance of that too, Dick, which almost would make me change my mind a little bit on these, because I think we can't forget the importance of those that are being utilized that way right now. But yet the savings that our ag community or whoever that would be able to take advantage of these with the solar capabilities, I think is quite important as well. So it's sort of a balancing act for me. I mean, I got involved in this, I guess, out of the gate, and I think I pulled you in on this one, Dick, when that solar company actually, gosh, it's probably been over a year now, Tom. I don't know, almost a year. Yeah. Those guys wanted to present this, and I want to make sure that we continue to emphasize the importance of our ag land as well, and not lose that in this discussion. So,
if I could, commissioners, what I would probably recommend is that I think it's worthy of running it through the process here and seeing the feedback we get possibly. If we get feedback from the property owners and or the industry that is an impediment to maybe solar, it's something to reconsider at the time when we bring it back to you after we run through the Planning Zoning Commission and we've done some public output and public input, public outreach and public input, and bring that back to you. So I think, it might be worthy of letting it run here and see what we get back. And maybe a decision can be firmed up, when we come back to you with the actual code for you to consider.
I have one other thing I'd like to bring up on this, because I actually have had some conversation with community solar developers or their agents, whoever have called me and talked to me about this. Is there a way to make, and I don't know how you would word it, but I was told there's a lot of community solar around that has a dual purpose. They put the solar on there, but they also have pollinators, plants around to help, to help with agriculture, basically. So you can have helping with agriculture by putting pollinators on this land, and you've got the community solar there as well. Is there a way to include that in this? That if I don't know, if we would require or strongly recommend it or something. I don't require it so people wouldn't do it, but I think it should be at least strongly recommended that this would be a dual purpose land that pollinators could be used as well as the community solar on the same parcel of land. Suggestion B, Tom.
Sure. Yeah, Commissioner. Actually, in what we propose in our concepts, that's exactly what we're going to include in the code. It's going to require that you enter the pollinator friendly designation that the state has. And they actually have a program and a designation that you get specifically for this, and or you manage it in an agricultural manner. In other words, you graze on it, you use it for some type of maybe low crops, vegetable cropping or something. So you combine it with the ag uses out there. Again, what we're trying to do is incorporate it into the ag setting out in those areas and make it blend in more with our agricultural uses out there. So yes, sir, we definitely are putting that in here. And we've heard it from the industry, and we've seen it in other areas where that's what's been incorporated in these types of processes.
Dennis, I've also checked into some of those programs. They are out there available for people who want to. I asked for a copy. I don't have specifics on it, but that is definitely a part of this. It's whatever the people want to do, and if that's one of the areas they're interested in, if they want a beekeeper, for instance, may want to have a whole lot of pollinators right there. So all these things come together.
Well, I just want to make sure that we include that when we put it out originally so people can look at it and give us comment on it, because I think it's a great idea to do it that way.
And I would assume that we'll also run this by our AgPres group as well. Their input on this is going to be very important. So that would be another group that we really need to run this by to see what they have to say. And Brenda, you're on here, and I know the EAC's been would be a group too. Not that I'm not taking away the importance of the planning and zoning folks, but we've always relied on the EAC for a lot of these issues, including the pollination and all that goes along with the solar. So those two groups, I think we really need to hear from, the EAC and our AgPres group.
Yeah, actually, commissioners, I've had Brenda look at a public kind of media plan for this whole process where assuming we gain your approval today, you know, we're going to go out and try to touch all those groups and have discussions and put this out in a lot broader scale. Actually, before we actually go to the Planning and Zoning Commission and then go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, that way we've had input from the public. So again, that's our next step, is to get it out there with other folks and have a discussion, and then modify these as we go.
I've reached out to several groups so far. I haven't had results yet, but Tom and I talked about this earlier, and some others, and Dennis, and that's, I think most people are on the same page as we are on that.
Well, yeah, and I wanted to say that because the suggested motion that we've got here says that that we would give permission to proceed with this to the planning and zoning, but I'm not so sure that we're ready for that yet. I think we should, unless we have to go that route, I'd like to hear from these other groups first before we do that. So I'm not sure I agree with that recommended motion that's been put on here. That's why I brought up the AC and the AgPres folks.
So Steve, you would like this to have a motion to say we can move forward with this and present it to the other groups before it gets sent to planning and zoning, or because I think if it goes to planning and zoning, the other groups will weigh in on it at that time as well. But I'm not positive, but I think that's the way that we're looking at to do it right now.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to skip the normal process here. But I also don't want it to be looked upon as, okay, this is what we're going to do. And lots of times when it goes through P and Z, that's the mindset. I don't want to set the stage here. I don't want to set the table before we have the plates and the knives and the forks and all that stuff. You know what I mean? That's why but yet again, I agree, Dennis. I just don't want to get out of process, but that can be perceived as, well, they already decided that they're going to do it. So now what do we do? I want to hear from everybody first. This is pretty important.
Yes, Steve, it's a good point. And the tools available to us as the Board of Commissioners is much more readily to us than the Planning and Zoning Commission. You know, once it's in the Planning and Zoning, then it's kind of, you're right. They're then very focused. So we may want to keep it under our umbrella right now, get the input from those that we're talking about, and then at that point afterwards, go into planning and zoning. So makes sense.
So am I out of bounds on this one? Because Roberta looks very confused, although I saw her yesterday and she looked the same way. I don't know, just saying.
Well, the governor did it to me yesterday. You guys are doing it to me today. So the normal course, yes, any kind of an ordinance change like this, a zoning ordinance change, has to go to the Planning Commission for their recommendation before it comes back to you. And as Tom said, it's their intention before even they bring it or take it to the Planning Commission to reach out to all the groups that you've mentioned and get their input. I would think and we can make sure we do this, that if their input vastly changes, you know, what the board seems to be saying, which is the basic ordinance, maybe with a little modification for the AgPres portion, then staff would bring it back to you and say, hey, this is really, I mean, everybody loves it, but for this one element, or everyone hates it, or they feel it should be added. And then take it to the Planning Commission. But by giving them the permission to go to the Planning Commission at this point, then it gives staff the opportunity to get that input. And if everybody is fine with the way it is without any significant modification, then they can just keep moving. So that would be my recommendation.
All right, well, I'm not going to get into the weeds of the process. I just think clearly this this is something that is vitally important to the future of some of our ag preservation remainders. And I don't want that message to get lost underneath the solar panels. How about that? That was pretty good, right? That's my only, because the normal process here I get, but it's always perceived when it goes to P&Z that we've already given it to them to get the final say so that it can be brought back to us to go, okay, now we bless it. Just think, if we're going to do that and that's the way we do it, fine. But I would like to have the importance put on that we've got to hear from these other groups first before any decisions are made. I just don't want this to be glossed over because I think it's too important.
Well,
Go ahead.
We have to have something written before and put together before they can act on it. And if it comes back to us, I mean, I think they need to have something concrete. If Tom's putting that together, this is the proposal that they can dissect or digest, whichever they want to do with it. And then it comes back to EAC and the AgPres and everybody else to make their decision. We have the final decision on it, and we'll have input from them prior to that, somewhere along the line. If you wanted to do it with them first and then planning and zoning, I have no problem with either way, really.
Commissioners, our intent is to reach out to the public when we leave here today. And I think last time Commissioner Rothstein, asked about everything being posted and all after we leave from you here today. If we have your concurrence on our initial direction, our concepts, that we're going to start with the public process there. After we've done that part, we will then go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is kind of an extension of that public process. Then our intent is to return back to you, give you the results of all that input, and then have your final decision as to moving to code adoption and the legal process that takes place. So, I think if you want us to do the public process and then come back and then go back to the Planning Commission, I just feel like that's a step coming back to you maybe that is not needed. Because I think if we gain all the public input, we go to the Planning Commission and introduce what we have as concepts and include the public input, get their recommendation, then we're back before you to finalize all that, and then we move into the formal hearing process. That is what our original intent was with this whole process. Okay?
This is 220 properties, or about 2,400 acres out here that we're dealing with. And if it takes a little time, that's okay. I don't think we want to rush through this and put anything together. I want to hear from AgPres. I do want to hear from EAC and their input onto this. So sometime, maybe as we're writing it, is the time to do that. So there's no timeline on it. It has to be pushed through at any given time here. So take our time and do it right.
Well, I think what Tom is saying is that they're going to do exactly what you guys want them to do. They're going to reach out to EAC and to AgPres and Farm Bureau and whoever else that needs to be reached out to and do some public outreach as well before they send it to Planning and Zoning. They want to get all that feedback first before it goes to Planning and Zoning. So if we go by this, and Tom, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if we go by this motion that's here, everything that we've already said we want to happen is going to happen before it goes to zoning.
That's correct.
All right, I'm good with it then. That's fine. If we do it that way, I'm good with it. I just don't want to write something up and then give it to PZ and then I want to get the input first. It's too much property. It's too important. And it's a huge change in what we have typically done here in Carroll with our AgPres property. That's where I was going with it. So.
Right, it is a lot of property. We want to do it the right way. And like Dick said, there's no rush, but I think it's time to move forward. So I'm going to make the motion that the Board of Commissioners direct staff to proceed to planning and zoning. It's hard to read it off your phone sometimes.
Second.
Dick, did you have anything else? Because
He beat me.
okay, all right, yeah, I'm good with it. I just again want to stress the importance of not going directly to planning and zoning. Make sure we do that route first. Getting all that input because this is huge. And I'm a little uncomfortable with the wording. That's all. So I want to do this. I'm just uncomfortable with it. But if you're assuring me, Tom, that your folks will do that, I'll go with it.
Commissioner, I've been 30 some years here. Believe me, I know what we need to do here with this whole process to get the message out. I do. And should anything come back that I feel is either like a deal breaker or something significant, we will be back before you to brief you on it. That you can rest assured.
Thank you, Director Devilbus. I think we're in very good hands with you and your staff on this issue.
All right, any other comments for Tom or Clay or Brenda? All those in favor? Okay. You've got your path. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. We'll do you right. We promise. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, that's it for agenda items as right now. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Chris Swam.
Yes.
We've got some public comment, I guess.
I'm going to unmute them one at a time and we'll get them to state their name so I can add that and we'll go through. We had a few more, so I think we've only got 3 callers on at this point. I'm going to unmute one at a time. Okay, we have a caller open. Can you please give us your names to make public comment? Unmute your phone. Caller on the line. We have 3 callers. One is open. Caller 3, please give us your name. Moving on to the next. Next caller, can you please state your name?
Yeah, this is Jim Miller.
Thanks, Jim. Let me get your name in here.
Okay.
Go ahead, and we'll give you 3 minutes. And starting now. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to call in. I know I've been calling in for the last 3 weeks. I wanted to thank the commissioners, thank Ed, thank Jeff for moving forward with youth sports. I also wanted to thank everybody for their commitment to listening and listening to the community and that commitment to move forward when the governor moved forward. So this is just merely me thanking you guys. I know it's been a long month for everybody, but I just, figured it wouldn't be appropriate if I didn't call in after 3 weeks of calling in and pushing forward to calling in. Thank you guys. So that's what I'm here to do again today. So thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ed. The community is appreciative of the actions. So thank you.
Okay, next caller, we're going to unmute. Can you please tell us your name? Thank you. Next caller. You're unmuted. Please state your name so we can let you make public comment. Okay,
Alex Jacobs. Yes, hi, Alex Jacobs.
Thanks, Alex. Go ahead and you've got 3 minutes.
Okay, great. Thanks. I appreciate it. Yes, my name is Alex Jacobs, and I appreciate the commissioners for taking my call. I own a company called Coppermine Fieldhouse, and we had invested in a Carroll County property, the Four Seasons Sports Complex, last November. And we have since renovated the fitness center. We were adding another turf field in the back with lights. So in the last 12 months, we will have invested $4 million into the community. And we are definitely interested in talking with the folks at North Carroll High School and potentially
expanding into that area as well. So if there's a public-private partnership in there, we would love to be on that bid process. If it is for sale, we would like to have a competitive bid process on that. Just like we started, we have 9 locations in and around Baltimore. We have 4 in Baltimore City. We started with just 1, and we've grown to 4. We started in Baltimore County with just 1 and have grown to 4 in that location. And now, similar to the same situation, we have 1 in Carroll County and are looking to expand into this market as well with a few more locations, adding programs for kids, adults, active social leagues, rec councils, and those sort of things. So we would definitely be interested in putting a proposal together and talking with the community, talking with the rec departments, and having a comprehensive plan to see what potentially can be done on that site. I know there's been some concerns about tearing the school down and keeping the school up. You know, I think there's some planning that has to be involved. Unfortunately, when we saw the project, it was in January and COVID hit, and we were obviously worried about our own facilities, keeping staff on. We have a staff about 250 to 300 employees, which is the main focus for us. It's really staffing and employing people within the community. That's what makes us so different. But we would definitely be interested in putting together a comprehensive plan that would be robust for the community, work for the community, and also work for us as well. So that's the purpose of my phone call, and I appreciate you guys listening. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have one more caller on. Can you please identify yourself for public comment, please? Last caller. Anyone there? Going? Going? All right, looks like we last caller is still muted or just not there anymore. So we're gonna go ahead and mute them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. You might want to think about going into auctioneering or something at some point. All right, with that being said, we're going to move into admin, open admin. We went into closed last week for personnel issues in reference to boards and commissions, and I will need a motion to accept those closed minutes from that session.
I'll make a motion to accept it. Go ahead, Dick.
Go ahead. I make a motion that we accept the minutes from closed.
I'll second it for you.
All right, got a motion and second to accept those closed minutes. I'm sure all of us have had a chance to go over them. With that, all those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And before I get into agenda reviews, are there any other open administration items that anyone wants to bring up at this time? Okay. Then we'll go into agenda reviews. For the week of September the 7th, a reminder that September the 7th is Labor Day, which is Monday, and county offices will be closed in observance of Labor Day, which is, again, Monday, September the 7th. Tuesday, September the 8th, I'll be attending an Ag Center board meeting at 7 p.m. On Wednesday, September the 9th, the Farm Museum Advisory Board meets at 9:30 a.m. That's Commissioner Weaver. At 10 a.m., the Commission on Aging and Disabilities meeting, that's Commissioner Rothstein. And at 5 p.m., Carroll County Board of Education board meeting, and that's Commissioner Frazier. Open session on Thursday, September the 10th, our usual Corona activities. We'll have an MDOT SHA presentation on the Maryland 26 project. We'll be looking at promoting safe and stable families program contract for the FY 21-23 year. We're going to be talking about not in Carroll funding as it pertains to the after school programs, additional design and engineering services for the proposed new community center up in the Silver Run Union Mills area, installation of new LED lights throughout multiple county buildings, existing control systems at the Carroll County Health Department, replacing those, rehabilitation of the Pleasant Valley Water Storage Tank, Liberty Lake Drive water main and looping construction contract, water main caps and blow-off valves in the Freedom area, and we have a loan request from the Lineborough Fire Company. And that's it right now for open session. Saturday, September the 12th, which Commissioner Boucher did allude to this morning earlier, is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention drive-through, and that's at Crim Gold Park, and that's at 7 p.m. Is that the right time, Eric, 7 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Commissioner Boucher has the podcast. Additions or corrections to that week? All right, September the 14th, Monday the 14th, Transit Advisory Council meeting at 3 p.m. That's Commissioner Frazier. Tuesday the 15th, Planning and Zoning at 9 a.m. Commissioner Rothstein. 10 a.m. is Maryland Association of Counties Initiative Subcommittee meeting. That's myself. 2 p.m., Veterans Advisory Council, Commissioners Rothstein and Weaver. 11 a.m., we have a virtual NACO Interim Legislative Committee meeting. That's myself and Commissioner Rothstein. 2 p.m. on that day, Wednesday, is the Opioid Senior Policy Group meeting. Again, that's at 2 p.m., Commissioner Frazier. Governor's Workforce Development Board meeting is at 3:30. That's Commissioner Rothstein. And Carroll Community College Board of Trustees meeting at 4 p.m., Commissioner Weaver. Thursday, the 17th, open session to again include COVID. We have more discussion on the creation of Chapter 37, the Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Service. That actually, I think, is the public hearing for that we discussed a few weeks ago. And there'll be more items, obviously, that will be added to open session that day. Nothing the rest of the week. Commissioner Rothstein has the podcast. Any additions or corrections to that week? Okay. One thing I have for open admin, and we talked about this earlier, and just a reminder, we're going to be going off the air and we're going to be moving into closed for some land acquisition. So we'll do that. So make sure everybody stays tuned stays tuned in and waits until we get off the air officially. The governor's, I want to bring, and I should have done this during COVID, but I just want to perhaps just reiterate this particular point. We had made the decision in reference to the Farm Museum about large events there, and that was as a result of a very large event that occurred several months ago. But according to the new guidelines now, and again, we're following this to the T. So the outdoor events are now at 50% capacity or 250 people. I know there's been some interest in doing perhaps a drive-in movie at the Farm Museum. And one of the events venues in my district reached out to me and wanted to make sure that that didn't come under what we had previously said about large events. But if we're following to the T, we can do this at the Farm Museum if it's 250 and no more. So there was some concern about large events at the Farm Museum. So I want to make sure that I brought that point out so that there's no misinformation there. That's all that I have for open admin. Roberta, do you have anything else?
No, except to that point, if we're still under the directive that if staff were to have a large event on county property, they would bring it to the commissioners. So if that were of interest, they would bring it to you guys first.
Yeah, I think this was a proposed event. I think some of our communities, I think all of you guys probably have seen it go on in some of your districts, in some of the municipalities that have been having some of these drive-in movie theater events. So apparently there was an idea floated to some folks, or some staff at the Farm Museum. So they'll bring that back to us. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point that it's $250 or less. So, okay. Anything else for open admin, gentlemen or ladies? Okay. Want to remind folks before we go off the air that we continue to make sure the strong message needs to be consistent. And I heard it across the board today. Even though we're going to be moving into the beginning stages of stage 3 at 5 p.m. tomorrow evening, we have got to remain vigilant and continue to wear the mask. This isn't carte blanche to just everything back to normal. We've got to remain vigilant because, again, we can't get back to where we were before. I just don't believe that that's in the interest of any of us. We'll remind folks to have a safe Labor Day weekend. It's a long weekend, so I'm sure folks will be taking advantage. I looked at the weather forecast. It looks like it's going to be pretty gosh darn nice. So it's a good chance to get outdoors and enjoy the outdoors. And the way things work here in Maryland, I would suspect by next weekend, there'll probably be snow in the forecast. That's usually the way it works in Maryland. But anyway, just to remind everybody to have a safe.
I don't think, Commissioner, I don't think you're allowed to use those kinds of 4-letter words on television.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, that is a 4-letter word. Anyway, just remind folks to remain vigilant, be safe over the Labor Day weekend, and we will see everybody again next week. And I thank all of my colleagues for a very good session today. We actually were on schedule, and we quit grinning, Rothstein. Anyway, we were on schedule and things are good. So, all right, that's it. I need a motion to go into closed for land acquisition.
Motion going to close for land acquisition.
Second.
All those in favor? And then I'll need a motion to adjourn after that.
Motion to adjourn after that.
Second.
All those in favor? We made that motion in second without Frazier or Weaver. Amazing. All right. Everybody be safe. We'll see you next week. We're going to move into closed.